like an hour tonight, if we can. It's been a rough night.
I hope she wasn't having a stroke.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Long night, long day. This reoccurring injury of mine is not exactly being nice to me. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us for this week's edition of the Weekly Roundtable. I am one of the co-hosts and co-founder of the Liberty First Foundation, Frank Johnson, host of the preeminent firearm review channel on YouTube, Rumble, and anywhere else that guns are shown, The Range Report. To my right is Michael Vasquez, New York's only true independent journalist, dragon of the Southern Tier, scourge of the political class, and the most feared person of the elite. And down below is Jan Rains, our alternative lifestyle specialist and resident lesbian. Jan, how are you, my dear? It's been a while since we've had you on the show, other than in the chat. How you doing?
I'm doing good. We're expecting 6 to 8 inches of snow over the next few days. So, oh joy!
What?
Yeah,
Could be worse.
yeah.
I know it's horrible for you guys.
6
I know,
to 8
down
inches.
in your neck of the woods, it's like, oh my God, might as well be the end of the world. Up here, it's just winter, normal.
6 to 8, and Lori keeps saying, "Oh, I just want one snow day, one snow day." I'm like, I don't want to see snow ever again. I'm tired of it. Yeah, and there she is. She's in the chat now. Just send it here. Send it here.
I tell everybody it's kind of funny because I'm just this little Southern California girl who keeps moving more west or more east. It's like, what the hell's wrong with me?
Well, if you want to go where the snow is abundant, we can send you up to Binghamton, the Afton, Bainbridge, Sydney area, and you can have snow for 9 months out of the year.
Yeah, I don't want the snow. That's the whole point. Like I said, I'm a little Southern California girl.
We've got a family shindig happening here in a couple of weeks, and it's our early Christmas. So we've got the whole house is going to be filled with family and friends and stuff like that, all coming up for the holiday. And Lori's like, every finger crossed that we get some snow for that. I'll never see a white Christmas here. I'm convinced of that. And that's fine by me. I'm not looking forward to, fortunately our driveway is really nice and steep. So if we did have a lot of snow, all I have to do is go out with the blowtorch and just heat up the apron. And as the snow melts, it'll just run all the way down, clear the rest of the driveway.
Your driveway is very, very steep.
Yeah, that's right. You've seen the driveway here. Yeah, just throw the hose on it and it'll be clear. It's fine. But snow doesn't last very long down here anyway when it does come. If we don't get snow this year, this will be, I think Lori said, the fourth year in a row that we haven't had any snow. That's fine. But yeah, if she wants snow, I'll put in a good word. I'll see if I got some pull. So other than that, what's going on this week? I haven't really been paying a whole hell of a lot of attention to the news. I've been otherwise occupied.
Well, if you looked at the list I made up, we have a heck of a lot going on this week.
Well,
that Boss has covered even after I wrote it down, and Boss has actually covered it a couple of times on his channel. And then there was something I saw yesterday that he covered that I was like, oh, I got to add that to the list.
All right. Well,
it's getting hectic now. Now that we're past the election and half the public have stopped paying attention, we're seeing a lot from the lame duck administration and Democrats. And it's kind of scary.
Well, I know that according, if we still had that nuclear war clock, I think we're like 30 seconds to midnight now at this point.
That's the nuclear clock you're thinking about. Nuclear Armageddon.
Yeah, whatever the hell it is.
Midnight clock. Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen it. But yeah, I think we would be at like 30 seconds to midnight at this point because Sleepy Joe has not only provided the Ukrainians with long-range missiles, but he is now giving them the okay to use it. The only problem with that is that in order to use these long-range missiles, they have to be operated by American soldiers who have been trained to use them.
And how long have I been saying that we have been edging towards getting U.S. troops into the Ukraine conflict? And this is exactly what we've heard France, President Macron, has been screaming about for about a year. They want U.S. troops on soil. And it looks like Biden, he's now a lame duck. He's got a month and a half before he has to step away. And it looks like he's trying to put us into a war that he doesn't have to take any blame for, that he doesn't have to take any responsibility for. He doesn't have to deal with the aftermath. And it looks like he's edging us towards that.
Well, you would think if these missiles and missile systems are already over there and they can only be operated by U.S. Service personnel who have been trained in look, from what I gather, this is not something where you just hand somebody a YouTube video on a how-to booklet and tell them, okay, this is what you do. This is something that an entire section of the military is devoted just for operating this weapon system. So you don't send a weapon system over there and let it just sit there in mothballs. At some point or another, it's going to have to come out that there are U.S. service personnel members on the ground where these systems are. Because if nothing else, just to safeguard them.
Well, not necessarily so much to safeguard them, but what they're going to say, and this is what they said when we sent over the tanks and we sent over our jets, is that we are facilitating the maintenance of these weapons that we have provided them. And so we're there to train and to maintain, since they don't have the ability in the Ukraine to maintain these weapons at peak efficiency, nor do they have the time. I mean, they don't have enough people, they don't have enough time, they don't have the resources. So even though it hasn't, when we're not sending troops on the ground, we do have people, kind of like we had the Green Berets in Vietnam, and they were there to train people, but we weren't actively in the fighting.
The advisors.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm very, very familiar with the advisory program that we have. But hey, wait, didn't Kamala tell us that we had no U.S. troops in any hot zones anywhere around the world?
Well, obviously she's stupid. That's why she lost.
Well, it's just one more thing that they lied to us about. But but this is, I gotta kind of think, I'm looking at the way that this war has played itself out so far. Putin, I believe, has showed an amazing amount of restraint for what's happened over there thus far. I think if he really wanted to go in and lay waste to that entire country, he has the ability to do it. And maybe he's just trying to keep the damage to a minimum so that when they take possession of it, it's less crap they got to fix. But if they wanted to go in and level the entire thing, I'm pretty sure they have the ability to do it. They have the manpower to do it. They have the resources. And the only reason the Ukraine has even been able to muster up any sort of a fight this far is only because of what we've supplied to them. I don't see the rest of NATO kicking in,
They are nowhere near to the amounts. I mean, you can take all of NATO, all of the United Kingdom, put it all together, and it's still not what the U.S. is putting out. In fact,
no, and plus Ukraine isn't a NATO nation.
Well, that's one of the reasons, but
so that gives them their plausible hands off. Well, we can't go in, full bore and help because it's not a NATO. Even though it's in our interest to keep Putin where he is, it's not in our interest to do that. Although NATO wants the Ukraine to be a NATO country so that they can continue the surrounding of Russia, which is why Putin doesn't want them over there. He's boxed in on all sides over there by NATO nations. He doesn't want to have that last avenue, for what used to be a Russian territory, become a NATO nation, because then NATO calls the shots completely on Russia. So you understand why he's going after it, but I think he's also handled it, very gently as compared to what he could have done over the last couple of years. And I think if he's probably going to send somebody over there. Listen, I don't think you want to start launching these things. I don't think Putin is stupid. Where he's going to want to see those missiles get launched, because it's going to push his hand into an area he doesn't want to get pushed.
Well, they've already been fired, so that's one thing, and he's going to have a response to that. Europe, in particular, Germany is the first on the line. Poland and Germany, in terms of NATO nations, are the first ones to be dealing with this situation. Poland has been very aggressive in defending themselves, building up their wall, because walls work. We've seen Norway, Sweden building up their walls because walls work. And Germany is in a difficult, for Europe, they're very difficult. They're getting their gas and their oil from Russia. And the more that they complain, the more that they fight against this, Russia just turns off oil and the gas. They've done this in the last 2 years. They've done this to them during the winter. And obviously people die. So Germany can't really do anything until the United States is energy independent. Now, we've already heard from the energy futures sales that Germany is looking to buy, and they have been trying to place future orders for U.S. natural gas, which would supplement them and reduce their need on Russia. And that's a big thing. So that's good for the U.S. economy. It's good for Germany because they get to be independent, and maybe they step into this a little bit more strongly now that all of their energy needs aren't reliant on Russia alone. But it seems Biden isn't letting that happen. This would naturally happen, which puts a natural pressure on Russia, because if Germany's stepping up and they're right on their doorstep with Poland, Sweden, Norway, United States, and Europe, it starts to get overwhelming, the international pressure. And their one relief valve is, you need our gas. Well, if the U.S. is providing it, which would come under a Trump presidency, his one leg of leverage, his one leg of punishment goes away. So it makes it more likely for him to say, hey, let's have a ceasefire, let's have a negotiation, which he's already offered to Trump, to have negotiations to end this, which would probably mean that Russia will keep the lands that they fought for so far and taken, and Ukraine will be smaller, but they'll stop fighting for a while. And that'll probably last until the next weak president comes in, like Obama, like Biden, and then they'll step back in and do it again. I have a lot of issues with all of this. Not that no one wants to see Russia win, but it's the manner in which it loses that's so important. And the fact that we just eliminated, just wiped out. There's different reports on it, 4.5, 5, somewhere between 4.5 and $5 billion of debt from the Ukraine. Why? Because Biden wants to give them more money so they can keep fighting, because he wants the Ukraine war to keep going on long after he's no longer in office.
Well, and I actually think part of what they're doing, because of some of the other things we're going to be talking about tonight, they're trying to sabotage Trump already.
Yes, they are.
And I think that this plays into it.
I know that we're going to talk about some of the other things that Democrats have come out and said they are going to do, which may lead us to a civil war, which is putting pressure economically on the rest of the world. It is dangerous. And I know people are saying, well, that's hype. No, there's fact behind this. There is documentation on this. We'll go into it in a little bit. But yeah, I think that this is a problem because if Biden doesn't step down what he's doing, if he doesn't slow down the pace, he's going to wind up sending U.S. troops into Russia. He's going to trap Trump into a fight that Trump doesn't want to have, that America doesn't want to have. We don't want to have troops fighting in Ukraine. I mean, why? Why should we? It's not our country. It's not our conflict. It's not a fight we need to have at this time. But yet, Democrats seem to want this war, just like they want the war in the Red Sea with the Houthis that is ongoing right now, just like they seem to want conflict, and I don't really understand why. It's not really in our best interest.
Well, bottom line, it may not be in our best interest, but you know why, boss.
No, it's about power.
Well, not just the power, but that military industrial complex has to make their money.
See, I don't think, I've said this before, and I know people disagree with me on this. And Frank, you can tell me if you agree or disagree. But the military industrial complex doesn't want war. They want you close to war. They want you to fear and prepare for war. They want you armed for war, but they don't want you to actually fight, because fighting a war takes away their resources, takes away their profit margin. It's a problem. Wars cost money. Unless it's incredibly short, it costs money. And Ukraine is not going to be a short war. No matter what happens, there's going to be fighting in the Ukraine region for the next decade. We've been seeing fighting in Ukraine since 2014. So they don't want a war. They want you prepared for a war. They want you close to a war, afraid of a war. That's when they make the most of their money and the biggest profits, with the least cost of resources or the least complications they have to deal with. The military industrial complex, they get a bad rap right now because they're an easy target. And it hides from the problem. It's government. It's dumb politicians who aren't looking forward and saying, what's the consequence of what I've just done? Because what's the consequence of what Biden has done? He reduced the Ukraine debt. We're never getting that money back. I get that. But why reduce the debt just so you can give them more money, which is what he said he's doing? That doesn't make sense unless you want to continue the war. You're telling Putin, we're going to keep having a war. This war is not going to end for at least another decade. How do you have a peace deal when that's the message that's being sent? No, we want this war. We want the fighting. We want to keep the fighting for another decade. Am I wrong, Frank?
Well, war, yeah, somebody's always going to make money off it, whether it's a full-scale war or just prepping for war. You know, you can prep for war all you want, but nothing expels resources faster than calls for replenishment faster than actually being in a war or training in multiple theaters all at the same time. I think I'm going to go back to the laptop, buddy. I think the whole involvement with Biden and everybody else is all about, this is one of the world's largest laundering schemes, you know, and somebody is making money off of it. And it doesn't matter how many Russians die. Doesn't matter how many Ukrainians die. It doesn't matter how many Americans die, so long as some people get their palm greased. They don't care. And that's been the status quo for years. For years and years and years and years. As long as somebody is shooting at somebody else, somebody's making money. And there's an ulterior motive behind every dollar that's being made, whether it's for personal use or to fund some other project that can't be funded on the books elsewhere. That money is being used, diverted, spent, cashed in. And I just tend to think that it's too profitable for them to walk away from. And look, Biden's been profiting off Ukraine for a dozen years now. Why would he want to stop now? Now that he's not going to have the power of the presidency, he's not going to have an office that he can squander through. So set up the long term, push everything in now so that you get paid out on the back end.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, there are problems. We have way too many politicians. Pelosi has children and grandchildren that have worked at dubious companies in the Ukraine. Of course, there's Hunter Biden. There's a lot of politicians who have kids that have really cushy jobs with very little experience in the Ukraine. And remarkably, Ukraine gets a lot of foreign aid from the United States even before the war started. So there's a lot of questions there. I get that, but
and not a single one of them will ever be asked to pick up a rifle. Not a single one of them will ever be asked to put their life on the line, get in front of a flag, and march to the sound of bullets coming at them. Not a single one of them ever will. It's going to be somebody else's expendable child that gets sent into that conflict while they're like you said, at their cushy job getting paid for something they have no experience doing and no business doing.
The one thing to be fair there is all their kids are above the age of enlistment in the military, but that's besides the point. I understand the point of what you're saying. But here's the here's the big fear that a lot of people have. This is World War III. This is going to lead us to World War III. What we're seeing being done is going to lead us to World War III, and it's because of money and power. And I don't think that's an accurate assessment. I don't think we're going to see World War III, and I do think that we will see the end of this war. I honestly predict and believe that in January, at the latest, in January 2025, Putin will sit down with Zelensky in the Ukraine. The U.S. and the UK will probably be moderators, not France. They want it. They won't get it. But the U.S. and the UK will be the moderators to a ceasefire and a potential peace deal, most likely a ceasefire that may last 4 years. But they're going to do that to end, because one of the big motivations for Putin, and you mentioned this, Frank, why is Putin fighting right now? He's training his troops. He's training North Korean troops, which is a problem in and of itself that no one really wants to talk about. This is about preparing for a bigger conflict down the road. And that could be the pre-Baltics, which would be Estonia, Lithuania, Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia. It could be up in Sweden, Norway, in that region. It could be Poland. They're all terrified they could be the next one. It most likely will be Moldova, because they've already been making moves into that nation. How does this affect the United States? Well, it affects the economy globally. It affects the politics, because if we see North Korea has trained troops, which they are getting right now, well, that means Southeast Asia. We have a problem with South Korea. We have a problem with Japan. We have a problem with the Philippines now because of this. Iran is getting better at drone and missile technology. That's a threat to Europe. That's a threat to the United Kingdom and potentially to the United States as well. And so this is a domino pattern. We have to break this. And I think we'll get that peace deal that does break this. And I think the fact that we can become energy independent again, which would release the stranglehold that Europe is in right now, has a lot to do with it. And I don't know why in the hell Biden didn't do that sooner, because this is the way to put the pressure on Putin. Plus, here's the thing. If he does have the ceasefire, some of the sanctions go away. He's able to sell oil and gas, one of the major resources of the United Kingdom, he's able to sell that internationally again and to get internationally tradable currency much more easily. It's good for his economy. Now, he's already won everything he needs. And if he stops, he gets to have more money in his economy. His economy will do fantastic. I think we see this end in 2025. I really do.
Well, let's hope we do, and let's hope the money train to Washington, D.C. elites comes to an end as well.
Yeah, but it's not going to be World War III. Even if it doesn't, it's not going to be World War III. It may well be, and I still think it could be 3 regional wars, not World War III.
Well, who does Putin have on his back burner right now?
In terms of
Who's slated to step in when Putin drops?
no one knows for sure. No idea.
Well, he's got to be figuring out his long game too, because he's not exactly getting younger either.
He doesn't care. It's not like he's worried. He can put up anyone and still maintain power.
No, but not when he's dead. I'm thinking about when he's the long-term thing. The guy's when he drops dead and he's it's not him.
Putin doesn't care about that.
Right.
Putin doesn't care about when he's dead. That'll be someone else's problem.
He might care about the longevity of his nation. He might care about what the legacy is after he leaves. So I'm curious as to who's being groomed to take his place when he finally is no longer to continue in his current position. Because you would have to hope that whoever that is not going to be as, hell-bent on shit that he is. Maybe he's more pragmatic.
No, not at all. They will be. He has all the hardliners. There are many people who served in the KGB with him who are in the government right now. There are a lot of people who are alive when the old Soviet Union was still in power and they still wield internal power within the country. No, he's going to, when we see Putin leave, there'll be another hardliner just like him step in. They're not going to be moderates or what Europe would hope would be a moderate. Not going to happen.
No, because all I'm saying is, not only do we have to play the game for what the game is today, we have to look and play the game for the long term too, is to kind of try and figure out how things are going to play out in the next 10, 15 years as well. Because let's face it, time does not exactly slow down. the more it passes, the faster it goes. So 10, 15 years down the line, he's not there anymore. Somebody else is. We're going to have an interest in what goes on then. As I said, everything that we do has got to be taken into consideration for the long term.
No, Joanne in the comments agrees with you, saying he has grandchildren, but I think he wants to see the old czarist empire brought back, and he's been working hard on that. I think that's his big long-term plan. And for the U.S., most of that doesn't involve us, other than NATO. Most of it doesn't even involve NATO. But in terms of future conflicts, in terms of resources, future conflicts in terms of the Russian effort to work with others is the biggest problem to us is Russia, because of what Biden has done. Russia has been working with China. They've been working with North Korea. They've been working with Iran. All 4 of them working together because of what Biden put forth. And that combination is a problem for us economically and in terms of security. And we need to break that. They don't like each other. It's not that hard to break because they hate each other. They have nothing in line or alike except that they hate the United States. So if we can, and this is why it's so important that we do get a ceasefire in the Ukraine. If we do, Russia doesn't want to do business or talk to China or Iran. They have absolute ideological problems with them, and they don't want to be involved with them. They do it now because they need the money and the resources. So this is a good thing for Trump in that he can have a negotiating, like, I know you don't want to deal with these guys anymore. Have the ceasefire. You can go back to international trading. We'll remove some of the sanctions, and some of the pressure is lifted off your country, and you don't have to deal with people you hate. I think that's kind of it. If that makes sense to you guys.
Well, we shall see what happens. We'll see who's stupid enough to set the big bombs off in the next couple of weeks.
No one's gonna drop a bomb in the near term. Everyone who's fighting has already done everything they wanted. I mean, we'll see. Biden is a lame duck. Harris has no power. They know Trump's coming in, and Trump has a very different point of view, and they don't like messing with Trump. We know this because we saw what they did under Trump the last time, and he wasn't confident in everything that he could do. He wasn't a politician. He wasn't aware of what were the powers of the presidency. He does now. And we see he's got a plan. Look at his cabinet. Fastest cabinet ever. He has a goal in mind. Whether you like that or not is separate of the fact that he does. And they know this. And they know that he is willing to step on toes to get things done, both domestically and internationally, which means they don't want to fight the bear. They'd rather wait until the bear goes to sleep, until another weak president shows up. So they're trying to grab as much as they can right now, position themselves, and then lay low, just like they did when Trump was in the first time. 2017 to January 2021, they were quiet. They laid low. And the moment that Biden got in, they saw how weak he was. They jumped up and they woke up and they got stupid. This is what I think we're going to see happening going forward.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, listen, that's enough of boring the living shit out of everybody.
People like that.
Listen, a lot of this stuff, we get so far into the weeds and the minutia and stuff like that. So when it comes down to it, people want to know how it's going to affect their pocketbook today. And that's...
Oh, I'll make it real simple. If we continue, if
you're paying for it, that's all you need to know.
Well, yeah, the national debt. We've already given over 250, maybe $300 billion to the Ukraine, and we're telling them they don't have to pay a dime of it back. That's all tax money. That's all money coming out of your pocket.
Well, you see, is it 200 billion? Because the Defense Department just went through their 7th audit and failed again with not being able to account for $854 billion that they can't account for. $854 billion, that's nearly $1 trillion that the Defense Department cannot account for. And we're going to think that it's only 200 billion that has been sent to the Ukraine. How much more money has been sent to places we have no idea where it got sent to? Foreign countries, we have no idea where that got sent to. Different people that we have no idea where it got sent to. How do you not account for $854 billion?
See, now that's where I would say the corruption we know exists. That's where that money went. It wasn't going to foreign governments, because we were talking about Department of Defense. They generally don't do foreign aid. That's a different department. That's under.
What were the C-130s full of hundreds of millions of dollars in cash money that were being flown into Iraq? Flown into Afghanistan. Yeah. They don't do foreign. No, because they don't call it foreign aid. That's why they don't do foreign aid, because they don't call it foreign aid. Because if you call it bribery, it sounds bad.
Well, no, because we've called it a lot of different things. I mean, look at the Obama administration. It was part of the sanctions relief, and we sent in well over $150 billion in cash onto the tarmac for Iran. So you have different departments that would do it. Yes, the Department of Defense drops the money off, but there's other people doing it. I think the Department of Defense is it's corrupt. There's a reason for it. I mean, there's a reason why we need the Department of Government Efficiency. Why we need Elon and Vivek Ramaswamy and possibly Ron Paul working together
Well,
to do audits and say, hey, cut this, because you can't go around saying, I have no idea how much money we just spent, but somebody got paid.
Well, that's why, listen, cutting is one thing. People need to go to prison. If I
Well,
was
go with it.
If I was an accountant working at some firm someplace, or as I was a stockbroker, and I couldn't account for $1 million, I would go to jail.
Probably.
There's no question about it. I would go to jail. Where is it? Even if I, honest to God, had no understanding of how the money disappeared, where it could have gone, or anything else like that, I would be held accountable for it. You
Yes.
would, anybody would. But because we have people that are in the military, in the Department of Defense, now we're not saying that. Now, how many people at the Department of Defense are not actually military personnel? Tons. Tons of bureaucrats, white collars at the Department of Defense, that they don't have a rank, they have an office. Somebody needs to start going to jail. And I'm not talking about like 30-day sentences. I'm talking about, okay, you can't account for $854 billion. Every credit card receipt, every bank account, every deposit, everything's got to get audited. Everything's got to get looked at. You can find that money. You can find that money if you sit there and put the right people in and looking for it. But the fact is, wherever that money went, somebody's got to get held accountable for it.
Well, and the thing that I look at too with this is it's the fact this is the 7th audit in a row that they failed. So it's a lot more than $800 billion.
Yeah, that's this time around.
Well, yes. And I'm not standing up for them. I think I'm happy that we have a Department of Government Efficiency. And I'm glad that they're going to go through, find corruption and find waste, and then cut it out. We've heard a lot of presidents say, oh, yeah, we're going to streamline it. We'll cut the budget. We'll balance the budget. We've heard this for a long time, for decades. We're finally getting someone who's actually doing it, which is phenomenal because we absolutely need it. And this is just one example of it. I mean, we should do an audit of the Fed as well, because their practices are less than beneficial. And I have no doubt, wherever you look, whatever department of the government you look at, you will find tons of money that has either been corruptly taken away or wasted. Absolutely.
Well, wasted money is okay. Listen, waste. All right, I'll tell you how people waste money. They waste money by ordering 10,000 envelopes when they need a box of 10. You know, they waste money when they find somebody to bid for a project that should cost $1,000, and they wind up paying $50,000 because nobody is there to oversee it. There's no competitive edge. There's nobody is bidding for something. You got a government contract. They put money wherever it is. This is money that you waste. Money that you waste. That could have been better well spent. We're not talking about waste. We're talking about money that cannot be accounted for.
Yeah, but
where did the money go? Where did it go? Because if you overspent the money, if you overspent or wasted the money, you could still account for it. Well, I paid $250,000 for this $12.99 knife. Okay, well, you overpaid it. It's wasted money. But it's the money that nobody knows where it went, that nobody can account for, that a forensic audit must be done of these departments to find out where the money went.
I agree with you.
Waste is one thing. Waste is one thing. This is out and out thievery. This is fraud.
I can't say that until we know where the money went. But
well, if it wasn't, they would tell you where the money went. They would tell you we overspent
our government doesn't know one hand is doing what they have no idea what any other department is doing or people inside the same department because there's too much bureaucracy. We're too big and it's too bloated and there's too many people passing paper from one person to another and that's their only job. And they are all trying to justify their jobs and they're trying to justify their budgets. I mean, that's why do they buy 10,000 envelopes when they need a box of envelopes? Well, it's real simple because they need the money. If they don't use up all the money in a year, they're not going to get more money next year. They won't even get the same amount of money the next year. They'll get less. They know this, and every department will tell you that, and every department does this, and that's because there's corruption throughout the entire system, which is why we need to shrink it, because everyone's chasing the next raise for their departments, but we don't need to keep spending that money. And once we do that, then we can reallocate the money. I mean, under the Biden-Harris administration, 2023, $500 billion. 500. Yes, I believe it's $500 billion. Might be $500 million. Excuse me if I'm misunderstanding that right now. Went to programs and legislation that ended. It's 500 million. I remember now. $500 million towards programs and legislation that expired. There's nowhere for the money to go. And the government is still funding that. Even though there's nowhere for the money to go, the government still spent the money. Right. And this is the problem.
But then the question is, okay, the money went there.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be somewhere?
It is somewhere.
Then why isn't it being reclaimed?
Because the government doesn't reclaim money.
But the money went somewhere. But yes. Where is it? Where is the general fund? The physical money. Where is the physical money?
It's in the general fund.
In the general fund. Where is that? Is it a big pile somewhere? Is it an account?
Yeah, it's digital. It's accounting. Remember, our money isn't backed by anything anymore except the faith in the government. Right. We don't back our money by oil or gas. It's all digital right now. It's in a book somewhere that says, okay, we have the money.
Right. But like you said, but even if they spent, they didn't. All right, here's the thing. If they sent the money, it's different from spent the money. If they sent the money and it's in the general fund, then it's still in the general fund. It didn't go anywhere. It's just been allocated for a department. It's been allocated for a department, but the money still exists. Technically. Yes. If the money was spent on something and somebody said, well, I spent $50 million on a martini and I drank it. Well, now it doesn't exist. You spent it and now it's gone. It's in the ether. It's no longer in your possession. You know, now you have nothing to show for it. You spent it. Sent it, you can account for it. Spent it, it's completely gone. If the money was sent and not spent, you can account for it. I'm talking about the money they cannot account for.
Which we don't know what happened to.
Where did it go?
It may have been embezzled. It could be a lot of things. We don't know.
Right. And until they know where it is, nobody gets any more money.
Well, that's one way. Well, we can't do that. But what I would say is the answer to that is Elon Musk, Vivek, Ron Paul, Department of Government Efficiency. That is the answer. And it's going to take about a year.
Okay. Time out. Yeah. You said we can't do that. Yes, we can if we had politicians that had a damn backbone.
Well, that's not entirely right. I don't think. Let me explain what I mean. So,
well, if you have a department that says, like, say Department of the Interior, just for instance, okay. Say Department of Interior comes up on an audit and says, well, we've got $50 billion we can't account for. Mm-hmm. Okay, what's your budget for next year? $60 billion. Okay. Here's $10 billion. Go find the other 50.
Yeah, we can't.
And then use that.
We can't do that.
Because if you can't find the other 50, you can't get more.
Can't do that. We can't do that. I understand why you want to do that. I understand the logic of it. I'm not saying it's illogical. We can't do that because the government, because that would put our economy in a tailspin. It's a shock to the system. Here's something a lot of people don't
Not
think
spending the money, not giving the money to a
It's a
department
shock.
that runs
It
inefficiently
destroys.
is going to hurt our economy.
There is a limit to how much we can do all at once without completely crashing into a depression, into literally destroying our economy. We have to do it in stages.
I totally get that, but we have to start we have to start somewhere. Our
I'm not saying not, but we are starting somewhere, and I'm only talking about tapering people's expectations. People want the Department of Education closed tomorrow, along with the DEA and the EPA and a couple of other departments. And I'm happy. Yes, I would like to see them all close. We can't do them all at once. It would, the shock waves throughout the rest of the system. And this is purely politics. It has nothing to do with feelings. It has nothing to do.
So let me ask this. You have the FDA, the CDC, the EPA, the ATF, all these entities make laws and rules that they're not authorized to be able to make because they're not elected officials. Why can't we just get rid of them?
Because it would crash the system.
That's money that will then go to other departments that could use the money or deserve the money.
I'm not against that over time.
But
to
how
do it
does
all,
that
if we,
crash our economy by just deleting them?
but the consequences of doing that again, it's a shock to the system to do it all at once.
Why?
I have no problem doing it.
All those federal employees.
Well, partially it's the federal employees. It's the fact that nothing is set up or prepared to deal without those agencies being there on a state level to do the job instead. It's the agreements we have internationally for several of these companies that we have to account for. I would love to say it could happen overnight. It can't.
So they basically set up a system that to me, it sounds like they have set up a system that you can't get rid of.
They tried. Yes. And that's the biggest problem. That's one of the biggest problems. And people are just, the mainstream America is just starting to notice we have a Gordian knot for a government, that every part of it is so big, so swollen, and so interconnected with everything else that it's damaging, it's dangerous to us as a nation in terms of national security, in terms of economy, to unravel it all at once. So we have to do it in parts, and people want it to happen all at once.
But do you remember what happened to the Gordian knot?
It got cut.
Hercules came along and cut that bad boy right in half. That was it.
Which is fantastic for a myth in the ancient days.
I still think there should be a way. I mean, I understand not being able to cut 10, 15, 20, 25 agencies all at once. I'll even give more than 5. But there should be a way that over the next 4 years, they can cut 5 of these agencies, 6 of these agencies, boom, you're gone. And it won't affect our economy as much as it seems you're saying. Because a lot of these 3-letter agencies and stuff are illegal according to our Constitution.
I understand it, but they exist and they are part of the system. Well, that's the problem. And yes, I agree with you, Jan. And I think that's the whole point. And again, I'm just trying to set expectations for people, because what we're going to see is the news media is going to use this against Trump to try and prevent anything to happen, when it's going to take some time and it has to be piece by piece. And that's what the Department of the DOGE, D-O-G-E, the government agency, that's what they're there for. It's going to take time. It's piece by piece.
I'll offer it this way. as a business owner, when you hire somebody to work at your business, you have what you call a return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
You pay somebody $20 an hour to come and work for your company. You, as the proprietor, are expecting that $20 an hour has a positive net return on your investment, so that you're hoping that you pay $20 an hour, you're getting back $30 an hour in return for in productivity. That you're making some sort of a profit, a benefit for your company has to come from what you're paying. All right, because otherwise it doesn't make sense to pay somebody $20 an hour if they're yielding 15 in profit.
Yeah,
Because
before
you
you go
lose.
further, Frank, remember the government doesn't work as a business. They have no ROI. They have no ROI. So,
but you see, that's the problem.
yes, I agree with you.
That
I
is the
agree
problem.
with you.
But here's the thing. When you have people that you have in a government situation, you should at least aim for net zero.
Yes, I agree with you.
Okay? Where if you're paying $20 an hour, it's not costing you money to have that person employed by you, because then there's no way to justify that person's existence. When you have people that you're paying $20 an hour and they're costing you $40 an hour to keep them employed, you are now working in a net deficit. Not even a net zero. You're not even breaking even. So my solution would be for the first, it was, we can't you can't fire all of these people, get rid of all of these people, do all of this. Okay, pay them, and then make them do something different. Pay them.
I have no problem with that.
Right.
See, and now you've hit on some.
Right, you give them a broom. You give them a garbage pail with wheels on it. You tell them you go out there and you sweep the streets.
That was the original welfare system. That's
right.
Literally.
You want to keep your job working for the government. You're going to do something productive. It would be at this point now. It would be even better if we took every single person from the Department of Education and paid them their salary to stay home and do nothing. Sit there. Sit at home and don't do anything, because you're going to cost us less money to sit home and do nothing than what you're doing at work now. Now you still pay all of these people and dissolve the Department of Education completely and just pay them. Just pay them. You'll have a net return positive by paying them to do nothing than you will to pay them to continue to destroy things, because that's what they do.
And I agree with you, Frank. And what you were talking about is essentially it's what the original welfare was, which is why if people look at the old Woody Woodpecker cartoons and some of the old Bugs Bunny cartoons, I mean, like the black and whites, the originals, you would see the guy in the white suit carrying around a trash bin, and he would walk around because that's what people did. That was their job, to get paid by the government. They did a job. It was only until after World War II, actually after Korea, that we started saying, well, we'll give you money for nothing. You'll just stay at home. We'll give you money. And that mentality got embedded in the government itself. I don't disagree with you, Frank. I'm not disagreeing with you, Jan. I am trying to only, as the one who does a lot of the politics here, I'm trying to give you the political reality of how we're going to see this come about, so that people aren't going to have higher expectations than what the reality they're going to get. And therefore, people aren't going to turn before this can get done. That's the Democrats want people to be hyped up and think it's all going to change, by February. It's not even close. And they're going to say, oh, it didn't happen by March. Well, he's completely failed. Give up on him and come back to the Democratic Party, because we have a promise to make it better for you. And Trump has failed. That's the intent that I'm seeing in the news media right now. And what I'm trying to do is give more of a political reality of how this happens, so that we have the time to make it happen effectively, so that it can, because once we get rid of the Department of Education, and I think that's on the chopping block, and it should be, and I think the ATF is on the chopping block, and it should be, and I think there's going to be an audit of the Fed, because we need it. But if we don't give them the time and the support to get that done, It will never get done. They will, I guarantee, if the midterm elections turn towards Democrats, they get the power of the Senate and if in 2028, it would have to happen in 2028 because they'll put in new laws guaranteeing these departments and putting them in with cement so that they could never be touched again. We
Well,
have
they're wanting
Oh, they would still rely on.
for that now. They're wanting Biden to save their jobs now.
Yeah, but he can't. He doesn't have the time. And even though it's a lame duck Congress, he can't. They won't move forward yet. They need more time. They need more power.
Even if they took the House and the Senate and try to write something to codify these departments into permanent existence, Trump would still have to sign it.
Right.
That's why I said.
And that's why I modified it to 2028. Right. They have to have House and Senate and 2028.
Right. So he's got a period of time to show everybody just how useless these departments are, and he's got to drum it into the people every single day to show them, hey, listen, how much of every dollar that you get taken out of your paycheck, this is how much of it is wasted by the federal government. Whose pocket would you rather that money be in, yours or theirs? And he's got to show which departments are wasting that money time and time again. Because if you could show that 85% of our tax dollars is squandered completely, and 85% squandered, and 60% of that is taken out on loan. We keep printing money to pay for the shortfall that we're not collecting enough of, running up the debt ridiculously, and then you can't account for $854 billion in one department. One department can't count for $854 billion. How much is the rest of the government, unaccounted for?
Oh,
you gotta have 10 million unaccounted for just on Nancy Pelosi's alcohol bill.
Well, it's going to be substantial, but again, what we have to do is give the time for the process to work. I'm only trying to moderate people's expectations so that it gets the time.
I really hope they make a dent with this Doge and come up with some really good stuff, because if we don't cut out as much of this corrupt government as we can before the next presidential election, I don't see, unless Republicans can win the presidency, the House, and the Senate again.
Won't happen. Highly unlikely.
I don't see.
Well, the only way they're going to win is they have to show enormous results in these first 2 years. Yeah. You've got to make a tremendous, completely undeniable impact. It says, look how friggin' amazing shit is right now, that nobody would think about changing horses.
Probably one of the first things would be an audit of the Fed, and that should wake up enough people that it gives us the time to do everything else.
Well, with auditing the Fed, people are going to have to be completely educated on how the Federal Reserve System works and why we're in the position that we're in anyway. Because even the Fed guy has already come out and said he has absolutely no intention of stepping down or resigning, and he plans on just keeping printing money until they run out of paper.
Yeah, he's not going to lower interest rates.
Well, he has restrictions on how long he can be in that office, and the president does get to replace him, so he can want whatever he wants. He doesn't he's not going nowhere for at least another 2 years. Yeah, he's got 2 years, and then he gets replaced.
Right, but if that's something that we have to do soon, there's a problem. Now you have overlapping time constraints. How much can they do with the Fed? Because an audit of the Fed is not going to take place overnight.
No, that's going to take at least a year, if not 2 to 3.
All right. Speaking of stupid shit in the news, I'm going to be getting out of here soon enough. I just wanted to hit this one thing real quick. The leftists have decided that they want to try and tank our economy.
Yes.
So they have said their new plan is while Biden is still president, they're going to buy everything they need to sustain themselves for the next 4 years so that they don't have to buy anything while Trump is in office so they can tank the economy.
Yep. They literally said that. It is
All right. How many people right now can honestly, blue collar American, middle of the road, middle class people can afford to buy stuff for the next 4 weeks at this time?
15%.
All right. How the hell do these people think they're going to facilitate buying everything they need for the next 4 years? And where are they going to put it? How are they going to store it?
Credit cards.
They're completely ignoring perishables. They're forgetting. So where are they? Okay, how much gas do you use in your car over the course of a week? Now multiply that by 208, because that's how many weeks of fuel you're going to need to store.
Where are they going to get their electricity from?
Okay. Well, this is one of the sources. Now, this may or may not be on Blue Sky, where there's about 20 million Democrats and progressives. They all ran there from Twitter and some other social media, Mastodon. And it's supposedly it's the new Twitter for the left. But on Twitter as well as on Blue Sky, we're starting to see that there's this movement. Not a lot of people are saying it, but the people who are saying it, as an example, Brooklyn Dad, who's on Twitter, has 1.3 million followers, detailed how they would do exactly this, how they would stockpile so that they could buy as little as necessary. Now, essentially, what they're saying is, no, they're going to go to work and they're going to come home. They're going to pay their bills. They're going to do the absolute minimum. It's the discretionary spending that they're talking about. So instead of going out to Joe's Pizzeria, which they normally do once a week, they're not going to buy any pizza. They're not going to go out to the movies. They're not going to go out and have dinner. They're not going to play pool. They're not going to go out to the bar and have some beer. They're going to cut out all of those activities. They're not going to buy video games. They're just going to stay at home, and they're just going to live without spending any money that would be discretionary and help the economy, because they want to punish Trump. They want Trump's economy. They literally say Trump's economy to crash. They forget that's the American economy they're talking about, which affects the rest of the world and everyone in America. So what they're talking about is they want Joe's Pizzeria to go out of business.
Yeah.
They want the local bar to go out of business.
So when they're walking around their neighborhoods not buying anything, they could explain to all the businesses that they used to patronize why they no longer go there and why that business had to close down.
Yeah.
They'll have to explain in their own communities. The hell was that? They'll have to explain in their own communities why blight takes over, why the storefronts are going to get closed down, why people are going to be on the unemployment line, why there's people that can't afford to eat or do anything.
Well, I can tell you the answer so far. Go ahead.
I think the thing that you really have to look at, though, and I get your point on that, Frank, but they haven't given a damn about the American people since before COVID. Look at what they did to the American people with COVID.
Well, no, they've actually, because people have pointed this out, like on Twitter, not on Blue Sky. On Blue Sky, people are saying that's a great idea. In Twitter and anywhere where reasonable people are, people have said, you're going to tank the economy. That's going to get people unemployed. That's going to get people to starve. You're literally going to starve children by doing this plan. Their answer is, no, you don't understand. Trump, because of the tariffs, everything's going to be 300% more expensive. So you won't be buying those things anyway. This is their reasoning. This is how they justify it. They say, well, tariffs will raise the prices. Therefore, I'm not doing anything different than anyone else. I'm just going to save money because I won't buy things at the higher tariff price. This is a misunderstanding of what tariffs are and how they work. This is a misunderstanding of economy. And it is a justification to make them feel good so that when Joe's Pizza and the waitress at the diner down the block go out of business, they're going to say, well, it's my fault. It was that tariff. It was the Trump tariff that did that. No, it's because they did it. And here's the scary part, because I know a lot of people say, well, how many people could actually do this? They don't need a lot of people. If you think about it right now, again, on Twitter, just using that one guy, Brooklyn Dad, you can look it up for yourself. I have the link. I can find it. He has 1.3 million people who follow him. Let's assume only 10,000, about 0.1%, actually try and do what he said, even if they're not effective at it long term. They go about a month, a quarter, something like that, 3 months or so. And they try this same idea to tank the economy. How many people does it take to crash a bar? How many people does it take to crash a pizza joint or a grocery store?
All right. But here's the flip. But here's the flip side. But here's the flip side, Mike. Whoopi Goldberg came out and tried to crash a bakery in Staten Island last week.
She did.
Okay. They tried to come out. And you know what happened?
The boiler.
Every day since, the line for that bakery has been out the door, around the corner, and up the next block. People parked over because the community came together and said, you know what? Hey, Whoopi, go screw yourself. All of these people who are saying, oh, we're not going to participate in the economy. Listen, you already don't buy soap. All right? You filthy bastards. Okay? You don't buy soap. Your economy has been in the shitter for the past 4 years anyway, where you've had no disposable income. So you're not spending money that you already haven't been spending. You haven't been spending that money anyway. So you're not threatening anybody. You're not threatening anybody. And listen, pressure starts at home. So when your kids are bitching and moaning and complaining that you haven't bought pizza in a while, you're going to go buy pizza. You're going to go buy your pizza. And these people, listen, this is a futile attempt at doing anything. If you want to know whether or not any of this has made any sense yet, why don't we see how many hair dye companies have gone out of business since all of these women are out there shaving their fucking heads?
All right.
It means nothing. It means
but it
nothing.
does. But
all of this is them trying to vent because they feel powerless at the moment. And you know what? Where they fall short, the market will respond.
Okay.
And the market will correct for their shortfalls.
Okay. And I understand the humor of it, but here's the problem of it. Because my biggest problem with them isn't that they can affect the economy, and not in the way most people think. Local businesses will fail in their communities. If there's any area where there are masses, they will close local businesses and they will hurt their economy locally, which, if they can do this to enough areas, will affect the U.S. economy. Will it put us into a depression? No, but it will increase the unemployment rate. It will hurt people locally in communities across this country. Absolutely. If you're living in the suburbs of Seattle, it's going to affect you. Same thing for LA, Austin, and so many others. But here's the thing. Here's the problem. The economy is a minor issue. They want it to be major. They have no idea what happens if they did this. But here's the other part. It's that they're trying to harm America. They're trying to target people they don't like. And this is happening at the same time, after 8 years, more years of division and demonization of your fellow American, at the same time that we have Democrats who are saying they're going to build a shadow government. This is how we get a civil war. It's people like this doing these things at the same time that we have the country is divided and we have a political organization that is saying, oh, we need to create an alternative secondary government within the government itself. That's why I don't like these guys and why we need to point out how crazy they are and to try and stop them. It's because they're building up the foundation for a civil war.
Well,
that's a problem.
Well, and their justification for this secret, this shadow government is because, well, England has done it for decades. Well, number one, we're not England. Number two, we left England. We're not a part of them. Why are we trying to adapt what England does? We're not a part of it.
You're literally, and people may not be aware of this, she's right now, Jan is literally quoting Representative Wiley Nickel. He's the representative for Congress for North Carolina's 13th district. He never mentioned a word of this on the campaign trail. So this is a surprise to his constituents as well as the rest of the country that he wants to build an alternate shadow government. He wants to put a second government made up of only Democrats in the country so that they can go and talk to the UN, so that they can make deals with China, so that everything that the Trump administration does, they can do something else or try to do something else politically all over the world.
Isn't that illegal according to our Constitution?
It's called treason.
Yes, it is treasonous. It is insurrectionist and treasonous, point blank. And the people in North Carolina, the North Carolina 13th district, they should be calling for treason right now. And he did, as Jan absolutely quoted him. His answer on CNN was that he was talking to Laura Coates, who was doing the interview with him. He literally told her, oh, it's okay because England does it. England is a parliamentary government that we fought a war to not be like. So that's not an answer. We don't have two governments in America doing everything. I don't care what England does. That's not America. That's not the American government. And his excuse is weak, thin, and useless until you understand the goal is to build a foundation to build a civil war on. This is how they tell us J6 was all about turning over America. And the biggest question everyone had was, how would they do anything? There was no infrastructure. There was no organization. Nothing could have been done. Even if you wanted to try and overthrow, you couldn't. But Democrats have solved that. And Representative Willie Nickel of North Carolina has figured out, and he is trying to promote, along with some other Democrats, the answer. They're building the infrastructure.
Well, what we need to do immediately is charge him with sedition.
Yeah.
Should have.
I didn't know he went on CNN. I saw the clip on him presenting this on the House floor.
Well, I didn't see the House floor. I did see him talking to CNN about it. It's the same problem no matter where he goes. He's just making his case worse. He should be arrested by the sergeant of arms at the House and go and immediately and instantly charge him with sedition, insurrection, and treason. These are all high crimes and misdemeanors, and he should be impeached, lose his position straight off the bat, and go to jail, because there is no way to say that he isn't trying to disrupt the operation of the government and create an alternate government that is based on his political partisan point of view. This is bad for America. And when you have, and who's supporting the Willie Nichols of government? The same idiots that are saying, hey, we're going to crash the Trump economy because they think they're targeting Trump. They're hurting themselves. This Willie Nichols thinks, oh, I'm protecting Democrats here. I'm just going to protect us until we get power again. You're creating the foundation of a civil war. You're dividing America. And it doesn't matter if it's, oh, it won't be 50-50. It doesn't matter. I don't care if he gets 10% support. That's a division. And that's something that breaks our nation from what it is and turns it into something I don't even know about. Go ahead.
Well, just remember, it only took 3% of the colonists, 3% of the colonists to agree on seceding from Great Britain in order to, launch the revolution. So as minor of amount of support as this guy might get, if 3% could build a nation, 2% could tear it down. So that's just, what I'm saying there. But, I'm in North Carolina. Maybe I'll look into it. This is the 13th district. It's not me. It's not my district, but
Oh yeah, I forgot you're in North Carolina. Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. He's if you know a lot of people, the algorithms don't really show him. If you're not already searching news on a regular basis, like I do, 12 hours a day, most people miss this. It's not the mainstream didn't make it big news. They're playing it off as well. It's not really important. It's a joke. It is important. It isn't a joke. And this guy didn't tell anyone until the day. And the reason why it's a guy named Willie Nickel is because you don't know who he is.
All right, now
So-
there's the 13th to 14th
Well,
district.
13th.
13th.
And I think it's more shown that it's not a joke, that they are actually considering this because he named who should take each position.
Yeah, he already has a plan, which means he's talked with people about this. He's worked this out. He's negotiated with people about which office, which person.
And good old Adam Schiff is his top guy.
Oh yeah. But it tells you how much planning has been put in place, and they use Willie Nickel because the conservatives out there, the Republicans out there, libertarians go, I don't know who this guy is, and this isn't serious. Yeah, that's the answer they want people to think, rather than no, he's the face. But look at the planning that's been put in place. Look at the way he's trying to normalize this, so that when you do get a Chuck Schumer or an AOC or I don't know, whichever Adam Schiff, when they come out and say, hey, we've got a modified plan. It's even better than what Willie did. But now you don't go, oh, well, that's just absolutely insane. You've already heard it before. Now it doesn't sound as crazy.
Well, now this is what you call the trial balloon.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've done this 100 times. Every ridiculous frigging thing that they've come out with, they do the same thing. They just try to put a little bit of salt in the water, a little bit of salt in the water, a little bit of salt. They wait for people to say it doesn't taste right before they back off a little bit, and then they come out and they modify the recipe. This is the first couple of dashes. Wait till you notice it. Wait till you notice it, and when it starts to say, "Hey, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't taste right," oh well, we'll put a little sugar in it now. Yeah, and then they'll try and go about it a different way.
Kind of like New York with the bulletproof vest.
All I can say for the people that are watching and the people that will watch this on replay, snip this section and share it with everybody you know. Call your representatives and tell them that you will not put up with treasonous acts.
Well, you would think that the left all should be, considering how concerned they were about J6, considering how absolutely insane they get about insurrection. Mind you, they don't say anything about autonomous zones across this nation. They don't care about that. But this should light up their light. It literally is two governments, one country. They should be out of their minds, outraged that anyone is suggesting it. Instead, they're giving it a pass because it's a government of Democrats.
Well, this is how you got to do it. Nobody knows the guy yet, right?
No,
nobody knows the guy. The guy he's an outlier. Nobody really knows the guy or anything. So the best way for us to get some heat on this guy is to tell all the Democrats that don't know him that he's a Republican, and they'll stop paying attention. No, you'd be surprised. I actually did this with somebody who was a staunch leftist. I went over a bunch of Trump policies and a whole bunch of and claimed that they were Biden's. They agreed with every single one of them. Until I said, no, those are all Trump's policies. Oh, and then all of a sudden it changed. Listen, kids, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna run. I am in so much friggin' pain right now. It's gonna take me 20 minutes just to get down the stairs again. You guys keep going to the Vest. You can close out the show, right? Yeah. You can end the stream. All right. I'm gonna keep notes on from the peanut gallery over here with everybody else, with our wonderful viewers. I'll be in the room with them, but I'm gonna let you guys go. You guys keep talking. I know that Dal couldn't be with us this evening. He was waiting for some information to come on. Dal, I hope everything went well with that. Marshall's working late tonight. Who knows? He might still stop in if he has a little bit of time after he got back in from work. But until then, I'll catch you guys next week, and have a great weekend. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Love you.
So it is really insane, Jen. I mean, I think we are hearing that Representative Nickel is saying this makes me believe we are closer to a civil war than at any point in my lifetime. I truly believe that. I mean, does that make sense to you?
Oh, totally. I was talking to my dad recently, and my dad's a veteran. And I told him, I said, Dad, let me ask you a question. Did you ever thought you'd see the state of the world or the state of our country from the time you put on that uniform until now be in the state it is in your lifetime? And he said, no. And I said, I feel the same way. I didn't wear the uniform, but I never thought I would see our country at the state it's in. And the more I look back, unfortunately you don't see it at the time, but the more I look back over my life in politics, the Democrats have been trying to destroy us for decades. Yes, some Republicans, but it's the majority of the Democratic Party. And the turning point was the assassination of JFK.
The Democratic Party is definitely, I think it's the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, which used to be called the liberal wing of the Democratic Party. Back in JFK's days, they were the liberals. Then they became socialists. Now they're progressives. They'll pick a new name. Every time it becomes unpleasant, whatever the name is, they always change it. But whether in New York State, they call themselves the Working Families Party. Same group of people. It's the same ideology behind it. Some of them call themselves now the Democratic Socialists of America. They're at least a little bit honest. They have it in their name, socialism. But it is that movement that you have been seeing. I agree with you. And we've seen it accelerate recently. But they really have to be crazy. They are openly saying, and that's one of the things that I know a couple of people on my show I've talked to about this. I've talked to people privately about it, and they're going, this is insane. It's a joke, right? It's funny. It can't happen. I'm like, that's the thing. Their shield wall is, it's so insane. It's so funny, but they are openly saying this. They're not hiding anymore. This isn't like, I want to build it. I want to crush the American. Literally, they're asking for the entire American economy to collapse to punish Donald Trump and anyone who voted for him. That's 72 million people. That is an insane level of hate. And that hate is finding a home.
Exactly. One of the things that I thought was funny that came out this week also was Democrats are saying that they're no longer going to do business in a red state. And I literally sat there and laughed, because go look at the map of how everybody just voted. There's red in every single state. And half the states that have been Democrat are half red now, if not more red now. Tell me how you're not going to do business in a red state, please.
Well, California, except for the major cities, is pretty much all red as well. And you see that upstate New York, almost all red.
But I try to tell people, I grew up in California. I know how red California has always been. It's the Los Angeles, the San Francisco, all those areas where there is more population that has given the Democrats the advantage in the state, just like in New York, just like in Chicago, and or in Illinois and several other countries.
Yeah.
Our states. It's our country is mostly moderate Democrats, moderate Republicans, and moderate independents. And I believe that this election kind of woke some people up. Just like in 1984, it woke up some people, or in 1980, before I could vote, it woke some people up when Reagan won the way he won. And then in 4 years, when I was able to vote, the landslide that he won in again.
No, I remember.
People also don't look at the fact there have been more Democratic presidents in my lifetime than there have been Republican presidents.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the damage it's done to our country.
Well, that's because
and they don't react to it.
Well, yeah, but they don't see it as damage. They think it's liberating for whatever reason, because that's what they were trained to think. That's part of the reason why we need to get rid of the Department of Education. It's indoctrinating people to think failure is a means of success, that you will always fail.
Well, why they stopped teaching civics.
Well, yeah, you don't know what the law is.
They don't want you to know your rights. They don't want you to understand what our Constitution means. They don't want you to understand how government is supposed to work.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why I would say to everyone, if you think I'm wrong about Willie Nickel, and again, CNN, Shadow Cabinet, look it up. You'll find the article. It's out there. Shadow Cabinet, Willie Nickel, Laura Coates is the interviewer, so you can see it for yourself. Then at the same time that you're looking that up, look up the definition of treason, because what he did is treasonous. But we're being told, laugh it off, don't think about it. And as we saw from Joanne, they're saying, well, the left is just going to move to wherever it's blue, except where it's blue is still red. Again, New York State, bluer than blue state, upstate New York is entirely red, because Americans are center right. Most of the world is center right. I mean, look at Europe, center right. It is the oddball, and the outlier is the progressive movement, not a moderate Democrat. The progressive far left, constantly moving left, is the problem. And we're seeing it in all these crazy ways. And that scares me because it makes me think we're closer to a civil war. And again, I don't think it's not like 50-50. It's not even close. I think it's, 5-10% of these extremists, but they can do damage. And that's the part that gets me nervous about it.
Well, you know how, I don't know if you saw this. This came out last night. You know how at first when they lost the election, it was the black man's fault. Then it was the Hispanic men's fault. Then it was, and they're going down the line, white women's fault. Now they're blaming the moderate Democrats.
No, they finally got to them.
I saw an article last night that they're blaming the moderate Democrats for them losing the election.
They're going to blame everyone. You know what they don't blame? They don't blame Hollywood. They don't blame themselves. Donald Trump beat 2 of their best choices, supposedly, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. He didn't beat one. He beat both. And he beat Biden so badly, they had to toss him out and put someone else in. And she lost badly too. So he's the only president who beat 2 candidates in the same party in the same election. And they were both in the White House at the same time. It's funny, but they can't accept that. It has to be what's their answer all the time? Look at the View. We're too stupid. We just don't understand. We pay bills. We go to work. We help build everything that they use. We repair everything that they use. But we're too dumb to understand what's good for us. We're too dumb to understand how great their ideas are, even though we heard their ideas. We've been listening to, no, you just don't understand because Donald Trump's a demon. You've been telling me this for 8 years. You haven't shown me how he's a demon. You just keep telling me to feel like that. And all this does is fuel division. This is how you create racism. Call everyone a racist. You create racism. When you give advantage, DEI, you promote people and give them opportunities and deny it to everyone else because of the color of someone's skin or their gender preference, you're creating bias. You're being exclusionary. They don't see that. But all of those things, their exclusion, their bias, their hate is dividing this nation.
Well, and what I think is funny too is I've seen several articles of Democrats coming out saying you got to stop calling people racist. You've got to stop doing this. You've got to stop calling and doing and saying and presenting this. And then they turn around and they call Matt Gaetz a rapist. When nothing has ever been. It was another made up story to defame somebody. They did an investigation on it. Nothing came out of the investigation. But now they want everything to come out as confirmation hearing.
Well, here's the thing about Matt Gaetz, and I mentioned this on Sunday. If Matt Gaetz just got reelected, he's a sitting member of Congress, House of Representatives.
Well, not anymore. He stepped down.
Well, no. When he just got nominated, now he stepped down. But he's up until then, he was a member of Congress. He ran for his reelection. He won his reelection. If there was any truth to what they have claimed, whether he was buying sex or some other allegations that they had out there, if there was truth, not just allegation, but actual truth to this, they would have filled the airwaves. Matt Gaetz would have lost his election because they would have just shown the evidence that exists. That's all they need to do. Show the evidence of abuse or misconduct. And that was all that was necessary to get Andrew Cuomo to resign, to actually several of New York's governors to resign, is to just show the public their violations of law, their abusive nature. That's all you need to do. They didn't do that with Matt Gaetz, and Matt Gaetz got reelected because they had nothing. But now they will make people feel like there's something there. It's got to be something there. You had an entire 2 years to present this. They never did.
I don't know.
You, these are the same people that said, "Oh, Joe Biden and his sexual abuse doesn't matter." This is Bill Maher. Bill Maher, May 2020. He said publicly, it was quoted in several newspapers. Yeah, it doesn't matter if Joe Biden had a sexual assault. You got to vote for him anyone. Same guy, Bill Maher, who said in 2018 and in 2019 that he wants to crash the economy. We've heard this before. They only care if they gain power. My point of view.
I don't know if you can pull it up. It's a real quick clip. But Sonny Halston on The View came out and made some damning statements about Matt Gaetz. I believe it was today because I saw the clip later on this afternoon. And then 3 minutes later, she had to make a
she had to read a legal statement.
Yeah, she had to read and her face the whole time she's reading the legal thing. You could just see how pissed she was because they made her read that.
Well, I did find one thing about it. Let's see.
Yeah, I saw an actual clip on it. I don't know
I
if
didn't see
it's
the.
on YouTube or on news. That
I
one of
didn't
the
see that, but I do have an article from ABC News, which locally is ABC News 7. And it's the View host reads a legal note after discussing allegations against Matt Gaetz. Let's see. She was asked early in the show how he could be nominated. Let's see. She
Yeah,
said,
she just went off talking about the allegations, bringing a 17-year-old woman across the state lines, and when he found out she was 17, he stopped having sex with her, and this and that and everything. I mean, she just spewed as many things that she could say to sway the public to think one way without proof.
and she should be sued, and she
And
probably
then
will.
3 minutes later, Whoopi Goldberg, they show Whoopi Goldberg in the video saying, well, it's come to our attention, da 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 da, and you have to read this. And she had
Because
to read that none of the allegations have been proved. Nothing has come out of their investigations, da da da. But her, the whole time in the clip, it shows where she's saying all this stuff about him originally, she's all hyped up. And then when she's reading the legal notice, she's like stoic. And you could just see in her eyes how pissed she was they made her read it.
because the lawyers said, you're going to get us bankrupt. He's going to sue us to living hell. Shut up, woman. And that's what happened during their break. And that's why it took 3 minutes. They were like, no, you can't say that because it's not true. And it is inflammatory and it is illegal. And that's why they had her. And by the way, I don't think that they covered it up. Yeah, she read the legal notice after the fact. She made the declaration first. She didn't make the legal notice and then say, here's my opinion. No, she said, here's the defamation first. Oh, by the way, our lawyer says that I have to try and clean that up. She would lose if Matt Gaetz wants to go and bankrupt them, just like Nick Sandmann won his case, just like we've seen this several times before. And Nick Sandmann was one of the bigger ones. People may not remember that. I remember all of these things because we need to reel them in, because the media has picked a side, and it's not us, and it's not the Constitution, and it's not to the benefit of America. And Sonny Hostin is just one example of it. The View is just one example of, as Dow says, seething.
Yeah. You could just see it in her face. Well, and that's like Whoopi Goldberg coming out. I saw this in an article too, because no way, shape, or form do I watch The View. But Whoopi Goldberg came out talking about how she needs her job at The View because she lives paycheck to paycheck. Now, this woman is worth like $54 million, but she wants you to believe that she lives paycheck to paycheck. And she just started a new channel that's based on women's sports, all women's sports. But she wants you to believe she has to work paycheck to paycheck and needs her job.
Yeah, okay. That's kind of I don't put anyone, maybe the lighting guy in the studio, he's working paycheck to paycheck. The script writers might be, the script writers and researchers, they may be living paycheck to paycheck. The hosts of The View are not living paycheck to paycheck. They get tens of millions for their contracts. They're not living paycheck to paycheck. But they know, and that's why we're seeing every one of the news media agencies have flipped. The reason why The View decided to bring out that legal document, it isn't just because they're going to get sued to hell, but also because they're moving more to the center, because that's where America is. We see that with Morning Joe. They went down to Trump and got on their knees and begged him to, talk to them again. Why? Because their entire company, the entire news division, is being slashed and cut in half. CNN is cutting its people because none of them have been doing news. They've all been doing partisan propaganda, partisan attacks. And everyone agrees. That's why this election, with them saying, no, Trump's he's a demon. MAGA is evil. MAGA is evil. And everyone said, no, they're not. They're my neighbor. And they actually make sense. And I hope that that's why they're trying to break us so much. That's why they're trying to extend wars into Ukraine, to sap the money out of our country, to distract people. Because if we are in a fighting war, no one's going to be paying attention. We won't have time to do the audits. We won't have time or the ability to restructure our government. We'll be too busy fighting a war and trying to, end it as fast as possible with as many of our soldiers safe and secure. They know that. They'd love to have a war because no one's going to be paying attention to government efficiency during a war. Not when our soldiers are fighting every day. They know what they're doing.
You made me think of something. Derek, you remember Derek Evans? We did an interview with him.
Mm-hmm.
He has come out in the last week that he's going to throw his hat in the ring in 2026 to run against Capito. She's our state senator. Fourth in charge now in the Republican Party. Big Rhino. Of course, the hit pieces again start coming out. January 6th, insurrectionist, running for Congress yet again, da-da-da. Well, I had made a comment on the article stating that, it was a hit piece against Derek once again, and that the story doesn't tell the full story. And, how he has my backing. I had somebody come on there, start calling me MAGA, how I didn't understand what Derek did, how they watched the video live of what happened. And I came back and I said, okay, what does MAGA have to do with it? What does this article not telling the full story have to do with it? I've seen the video. I know what happened. He wasn't on the side of the Capitol where they were doing the riots. He was on the other side, and he was in the rotunda doing video and this and that and that. This person comes back and says, well, I was there. I saw it firsthand. I'm a government employee.
Well, that's a problem all its own.
Well, and that's kind of what I came back with. I was like, so I'm supposed to believe you because you're a government employee? When the government is the one that's trying to do everything in its power to silence half of the country? Then they came back and they said, now this person lives in Kentucky, not West Virginia.
Right.
So they came back and they started telling me, I said, it's people like you that when somebody doesn't agree with you, you try to silence them and say, well, I'm smarter than you because. I said, so you're telling me because you're a government employee, you're smarter than me. You don't know what I've lived through. You don't know what I've seen. You don't know this. I said, let me ask you this question. You ever talked to Derek? I said, I've interviewed him on camera, live. They couldn't come back with anything to that. They came back and said, well, I don't know anybody who's trying to shut down other people's opinions or this and that. I've never tried to do this and I've never tried to do this. And I said, well, what do you think you're doing to me now? You came on to my comment and called me out for not agreeing with your story and what you see and what you view. You're telling me I'm wrong.
See, and that's the problem, because I've had this happen recently to me and other people, where they'll come at me and go, "Well, you're wrong." I'm like, why? Oh, well, you're just an evil, bad person. Okay. And then I try and have a dialogue with them. They go, "Well, you're attacking me." I'm like, you came to me. You told me I was wrong because I broke or hurt your feelings. I asked you for a legit reason because I have sources, I have facts, I have logic on my side. And now you're going to say I'm the bad guy? You can't come to me and say I'm the bad guy when you came and attacked me in the first place. But this is part of that mentality, this entitled mentality. And this is why we see so many people cutting off their hair and doing the 4B, the South Korean 4B movement, and now are trying to trash the economy, and they're trying to divide the nation and get a civil war. It's all about their feelings. They can't actually have a conversation. If we just had a conversation, the nation would be better. I don't know anyone. You know why we need to hear something for the audience? For anyone who's wondering, why is it a big deal about the auditing the Fed or shutting down the Department of Education or just getting rid of the government waste? Every dollar that the government prints makes you poor because your money is worth less. It's less. It has less value every dollar they print. And when they print $9 billion $5 billion of debt, of money, and give it to the Ukraine, you just got $9 billion poorer. You can buy that much less every day. So it's important for that reason. But no one ever stops to have this conversation. And all they say is, well, you just love Putin. No, I love America. And I don't want to spend money where I don't need to. And I don't want to have a war with U.S. soldiers dying that don't need to. And I think and in the Constitution, it doesn't say go out and fight every war for every country around the world and spend all of the money that America will have for the next 3 generations and bankrupt the country. It doesn't say that in the Constitution. It's nowhere in the Constitution. And the president doesn't have the power to do that. And they forget that all the time.
Well, and they don't have the power to pass 90% of the laws that they pass.
True. The only problem I have is we have to. It's such a big problem. We need to take the time to dismantle it properly, so it can't just be so that you can't see what happened. Trump had the stay in Mexico program, which means or remain in Mexico program. Illegal aliens, when they tried to enter our country illegally. They said they want to claim asylum. Fantastic. Stay in Mexico. We'll spend 18 to 24 months figuring out if you are actually an asylum, someone seeking asylum, and to find out if you're a good person or a member of a Venezuelan gang or a terrorist. And if the vetting actually goes through and takes 18 to 24 months, and if the vetting goes through, yeah, we'll let you in, and you are now a legal migrant into America. Fantastic, here you are. Or if you're not, we're going to tell you go back to your country or the next closest country to yours, where you can declare amnesty if you want, or asylum, and do that. Joe Biden on day one, as soon as he came in, because that was done by executive order by Donald Trump. Day one, Joe Biden came in and said, nope, I don't like that anymore. It's open border time. And thus it was. That's why we have to take the time to really break down all of this garbage, this political swamp, and drain it. We have to take the time to do it right. Otherwise, the next person goes, oh, well, you didn't do it the right way. It's all back. You turned off the switch. I turned it back on.
Well, and that's something we need to also get a hold of, or these presidential EOs.
The executive orders. Yeah.
Yeah, because a president shouldn't be writing as many of these EOs as they are, and for reasons that they're writing them. That should be stuff that goes through Congress.
I wish it would. I really, really wish it would. But we've seen too much abuse. And that's for every president. Right?
No, I understand why it's gotten to the point where it is. I mean, shit. How many executive orders did Biden sign on day one? I'm pretty sure Trump's going to double, if not triple it.
I hope not. I mean, Biden in the first 24 hours had 40 executive orders, many of them just reversing everything that Trump did. I don't want to see Trump just do.
Well,
80.
I don't either, but I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised if that is what happens. But it's again something that needs to be curtailed and pretty much stopped. If this can't get done through Congress according to our Constitution and what rights they're given to pass a law in Congress, then no EO should be written. Period.
Well, there's some exceptions to that, but I understand the point. Joanne.
Tariffs and treaties and stuff like that can be done by the president, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, then that's his authority. Why does a president need authority to write an executive order to make laws in the country?
No, I understand. It just, they're trying to save time, essentially, or more likely, they know they can't get it passed, and so they're getting around it. Joanna, you said you have a question. Go ahead and ask.
Hurting the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Joanna, go ahead and ask the question. Don't just ask the question. Always, folks, just ask the questions if you have a question. But
I think you understand what I'm getting at.
Yeah. No, I know what you're getting at. Let's see here. There's a couple of comments in here. Dow says we would hope that temporary executive orders with a definitive end time of 100 days would be followed up by congressional legislation lawmaking. It's one of the other things I like about, did you know this? The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, it has a built-in time limit. It will be gone on June 26, 2026. When I read that, I was loving it. I'm like, perfect. It cannot continue. It's going to self-delete itself. We need more of that.
Well, and before you get to Joanna's question, did you hear how they're of course they're going to bash Doge because they're trying to get people who have high IQs who are willing to work as many hours as needed without pay, which I think is smart. Let's get the smartest people on this who are willing to do it to help their country.
Well, we can always ask. And I know that.
And of course the leftists, are out there just bashing. They want people to work for nothing. They want.
Sure. Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, but if you have people that have very high IQs, they don't need the money.
No, that's actually no. People with lower IQs actually tend to make more money. Believe it or not. We always have the exceptions that everyone points to. But on average, the average person, lower IQ makes more money because they work harder. They don't think all the time. They just do. But I get your point. And there's nothing wrong with saying for a government where the government's asking, not mandating, not forcing them to, but said, hey, you want to give us a hand? Let's get some ideas together. I know that they're on Twitter right now and they keep asking people, well, what department do you want to cut? What policy do you want to see removed? What do you want us to investigate? How would we reduce this or shrink it or cut it? Why not? There's 350 million people, roughly 162 million people that are working every day. Why not ask 162 million people, hey, do you have a good idea? I am pretty sure out of 162 million people, there's at least one person with a good idea. Why not ask for it? You might get it, and maybe you'll get 10,000. As is, there are 19,200 ideas that have been submitted and reviewed by the government right now on how to shrink the government. 19,200 that are slated to actually be put into effect, and the government's never done it. That's just insane. But I did want to get to Joanna asked, or she states that she's been told that police are being told to stand down on illegals where she's living.
Now, I know she lives in Texas, but I don't know if her district is Democrat. To me, because her and I have talked about this, as we know, a lot of the Democratic governors have come out and said that they will not allow their police to help with any immigration issues.
Mhm.
The only thing I can think of is if they are telling her in that area, she has to have a Democratic mayor.
Okay, so when she says stand down, means leave the illegal aliens alone.
Yeah, no deportation, no nothing.
She goes on. Oh, here's the second part. Come to find out, we were a sanctuary city in 2022. I honestly believe it's because they don't want the crime rate from it, so they don't lose the check they're getting. They don't want to lose the check from the feds because crime increased.
That tells me she lives in a Democratic run area.
Probably. Almost absolutely. So I'm not sure the question, but I can say, one, that's a top-down problem. That's coming, someone's telling the chief of police, which would be a mayor, possibly a governor, on how they, or even higher, because if we follow the chain up, the open border policy started with Biden and Kamala Harris.
Okay, but Abbott, the reason why I say that, though, is Abbott's the governor.
Yes.
Everything Abbott's doing on the border to stop illegal immigration, it has to be the mayor.
Yes, unless they're following the federal government. And you can see mayors may say, federal government stands above the state government, so I'm going with the government. There's lots of reasons why, but I'm just giving an overall in any given area. That could be the way that they're falling, but it's a top-down issue. Open border came from the top, and this is how it filters into communities around America. It is a crime. It's no matter the fact that the police are being told don't investigate this crime. It is a crime. And I think you will see that change. And we are seeing that change. Like here in New York, we've seen more arrests of illegal aliens since the election than for 3 months before the election. Still imperfect.
They're taking them out of hotels and stuff now up there in New York.
They're planning to. They're cutting down on all the luxuries because the check for all these luxuries for these sanctuary cities and these sanctuary states are going to be cut in January. We already know that Trump has said that. He did that the first time. So they're preparing for that. So I do think that will change. It is shocking, though, to find out that but I understand people say, I didn't know I'm in a sanctuary city. It's all about the policies. You gotta follow the policies that the politicians are putting. And I don't mean the ones that the local news say, hey, you should pay attention to this one. Pay attention to them all. Read the headlines of them. If it catches your attention, pay attention to it. If it's in a subject that's important to you, read the bill. Read it as you're in the bathroom, read it there. You're stuck in traffic, you're on mass transit, read it there. On the subject that's important to you. If you only care about abortion or illegal immigration or gun control or free speech or whatever it is that's interesting to you, read all the local bills about that so that when they say, oh, oops, we didn't have a choice and we had to make this change, you can go, no, time to hold you accountable because you just broke the law. And that, if it's the mayor or the county, they are breaking the law by saying, don't enforce immigration law.
Well,
which is
and
why
don't
it's
just
changing.
talk to your mayor or go talk to your police chief. Your police chief had to swear an oath, just like the rest of them.
Yeah, and you can. I mean, they are subject to public scrutiny as well. Just because, oh, I'm the chief of police. And that doesn't mean you're perfect, innocent, or not corruptible. And we've seen that across the country. I know Joanne's saying, well, she thought she was in a Republican county and it was a Republican city. No, that's, see, just because the vote in certain elections tend to lean one way or the other, it's about the law. What law just got passed? Because you can be as Republican as you want to be, and if you're voting straight down the line progressive on all the bills that are coming out, then you might as well be a progressive. Yes, the books will say Republicans, all Republicans, but you're passing nothing but progressive ideas. Then you might as well be a progressive. That's why you have to follow the bills and understand what are they really doing, not whether they have a D or an R after their name or L for libertarian or G for Green Party. I don't care. What are you actually standing for? What are you actually doing? We are so busy to look at the label and say, well, now I understand everything. I mean, that's what the left does about MAGA. Oh, you're MAGA. Well, that answers everything. Oh, you're a Republican. That answers everything. Really? Because that really didn't say anything. That's your label, but you haven't actually looked at, okay, that doesn't tell you what I think about gun control. Doesn't tell you what I think about free speech, Article 230, international trade, wars, Hamas hostages. It doesn't tell you anything. All I said is that's my label because that's the label you put on me. We got to think of these things in a different way. So I would say, Joanna, go out, make sure that look at the local legislation. And if they've been passing if they passed legislation and says, oh, no, we can't touch the illegal aliens, notify federal agents, and that's a violation of law. They cannot follow the law. And you'll see that's going to change in January. I hope that answers that. I think it does. Was there anything else on the list we didn't get to today?
No, the only other things I had on the list and we kind of talked about was how the Democrats have continued their rhetoric. I know we brought up, like with Gates, they've called, they're starting to do the thing with Gabbard again, calling her a Russian asset and threat to democracy and, all the crap we've heard before. And then the other thing that was on the list was how the Democrats are turning away from Pelosi.
Well, I didn't hear about Pelosi. I didn't hear about that. I do know that Democrats are trying to make it seem like, Tulsi Gabbard is some kind of traitor to America. She's a member of our military. We have a intelligence agency in the military, as well as the national NSA that are responsible, the DOA and the NSA that are responsible for investigating individuals that would be a spy. If she was, she would have been found out. They're very good at doing this. That's their one job, one of their big jobs. And a colonel in the military who has access to all kinds of information and people, yeah, they check that in a heartbeat. Not one investigation has been put forward because she hasn't done anything wrong.
Well, I don't know if we ever discussed on the show with her or not how they put her on the secret terrorist watch list.
I think we did. Yeah. Well, I know that Tulsi Gabbard was put on the watch list, but that doesn't take a whole lot. I'm surprised if I'm not on the terrorist watch list because they don't agree. It's all you have to do is not agree with Democrats and you are suppressed and banned and you're the bad guy. She happens to be more famous than most. Again, she has a security clearance. She's active in politics, and not once has there been any proof. There's been lots of allegations. Allegations mean nothing. That's just someone name calling. There has been nothing of substance ever found to justify any of the name calling. And that's just insane. RFK, same thing. Oh, yeah. He's a crazy guy because he wants Fruit Loops to be made with like real food. Really? Fruit Loops, make it with real fruit. Oh, he's so crazy.
Oh, I've seen comments on articles that I've read about him that, well, his family has disowned him. That should tell you something. Well,
so does Tim Walz's family.
What does that tell me? What's it supposed to tell me? That has nothing to do with how he wants to fix our health system and our food.
Well, the answer is it tells us that they don't agree. And what are they not agreeing about? That Fruit Loops should be made with fruits instead of chemicals. And if you think that's just like, what are you talking about, Mike? Go look at the ingredients in America. Look at the ingredients on Fruit Loops. You will find, red number 1, yellow number 6, and a few others, and a bunch of chemicals on there. And if you go to Canada or Europe, you won't see that. They say watermelon and oranges. That you have actual fruits for the flavoring and the coloring. And in America, we have a chemical. And RFK is saying that shouldn't be the case. You know what? Get rid of the chemicals in America.
Well, and I try to point out, people need to understand we have over 22,000 chemicals, pesticides, and other stuff that are allowed in our products, not just food, or products that are banned in other countries.
Oh, yeah. We got a ton of stuff. So, but yet he's called crazy for that. That doesn't seem very crazy to me. But I haven't heard about what's it with Pelosi?
They're turning away from her because she's trying to be in charge again.
Really?
Yeah.
She's a bit old for that.
Yeah. Well, didn't she back Jeffries to be her successor?
She didn't really have a chance.
I guess she doesn't like the job Jeffries is really doing, and she wants the authority again.
Well, I don't know how much.
Telling her to sit down and shut up, basically. And I don't know if you heard this. She's already put her paperwork in to run in her next election.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. She always does, because she wants that. She has a dynasty there, so she doesn't want anyone else to have it. As for trying to gain power again, she's old, and I don't know why Democrats want to have someone who publicly said that unemployment, getting paid unemployment, is a stimulus to the economy. This helps make the economy better by paying people unemployment checks, which is absolutely, factually, empirically not true. She also said that we had to pass a bill to find out what was in the bill. That was Obamacare, by the way. And just pass it Then you'll find out what's in it. That's every lemon law in the country. You couldn't buy a used car based on that logic because it's considered to be so abusive. And yet she wanted to pass in Congress bills on that same ideology. I don't know why Democrats would want her back. And I don't think there's a reasoning for it.
And I didn't know this, and I read it this past week too, and then I even saw a YouTube video on it. Did you know that at one point when she was speaker, she opened a bar in the Capitol, and they go spend taxpayer money to go into this bar to have their drinks?
Oh, that's funny.
The Republicans have said they're shutting it down.
You know, if that was the only thing that was wasteful in Washington, D.C., I'd be like, I don't care. But the mere fact, if only because it's a symbol, yes, shut it down. I mean, it's not like Nancy Pelosi doesn't have enough money to get an extra pint of whatever she wants to drink, along with any other member of Congress. They make, on average, somewhere around 3.5 to 6 times what the average person in their state earns. 3.5 to 6 times. They can afford whatever drink they want on their own. They already got the bonus. So, there's that. But I'm not surprised Jeffries isn't effective because progressives aren't for Hakeem Jeffries, who was the Progressive Caucus head. He's part of, or at least was part of, the Democratic Socialists of America with AOC. They failed. They were pushing for a progressive agenda with Kamala Harris. It failed. It was rejected wholesale across the entire country. They lost seats everywhere. People do not want to become progressives, just like people don't want to be Californians. People are leaving California in droves. We pay $2.6 billion a year to try and convince other countries to be California. That's not working. And the progressives have been trying to push this. It isn't working. So that's why Hakeem Jeffries, is getting kicked out of the speaker seat. I don't think it goes to Pelosi. It'll go to someone else. I'm not sure who, but it won't be Pelosi.
Well, they need if the Democrats want to have any chance again, they need to start nominating people to lead their political affiliation as more moderates. The public has had enough of the progressivism.
Well, yeah, I don't know that moderate. I just want effective people. I don't care. If you want an extremist in your community, fantastic. Vote for them. That's fine. Just have a reason. And the reason shouldn't be, well, they have a D or an R or a C or a G or an L after their name. Those aren't reasons. Telling me that they're black or white or Hispanic or Chinese, Asian, or polka dot isn't a reason. Telling me they're male or female, they, them, a toaster, that isn't a reason. Have a reason. And if you want someone who's absolutely extreme, you want, Ilhan Omar's clone, or, AOC, the, Asian version, fantastic for you. But I don't think most people want that. So if we're actually looking at who's being effective and efficient and has the best plan, you'll almost never get the extremes. You'll always you'll get someone closer to the moderate. And that's when America runs the best. And that's the way to look at it. It's like, oh, I want to vote for extreme. Okay, why? Just tell me why. They hate that nowadays. You ever notice that, Jan? We on this program are constantly trying to work out the why, whether in real time or in the future. We're talking to you every week about the why, not just the how, but the why. And and you look at the CNN, MSNBC, Joy Reid, The View, New York Times, and they're telling you how to feel, but not why this happened or what is going to happen next. They don't want to address. They don't want to address that. They keep telling you, don't ask why. Don't ask why we're doing this. Just do it. By the way, you should feel happy about it. Why should I feel happy about it? You're asking why again. We're just telling you, feel happy. But I have no reason to feel happy. Well, it doesn't matter. It's been dictated. And that's the problem. It really is.
Well, they need to really revamp. I've seen people resigning from their positions in different articles as DNC heads within their states. I mean, in droves going on right now.
Well, they're trying to they have to reinvent. The Democratic Party needs to reinvent themselves, to reimagine and find a new slogan that everyone can get behind, because they used up all the slogans between Obama and Biden and then Kamala. They used up pretty much all of their credibility. They rewrote her history. They rewrote her as the borders are. They ignored her, how she got into politics. They tried to claim that she was very successful, even though no one can name what she was successful at. They used up all their credibility on CNN and MSNBC and ABC and 60 Minutes. They threw out their credibility to push this narrative. Now that got blown up and everyone said no, where do you go after that? That's what they're trying to figure out. And I think people like Brooklyn Dad, who earlier I mentioned wanted to crash the U.S. economy, as much as he may be doing it as a distraction so we don't pay attention to the fact that Democrats don't know what to do next, they're destroying the system itself as they try and figure out how they can get back power. That's just sad. At least that's my opinion of it.
No, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
If they continue down this path, they won't win the next 2 elections.
I'm not sad about that at all.
I'm not either. We actually need like the next 4 or 5 elections to go to Republicans so that we can make sure that the changes that need to be made to bring our country back to the greatness it's supposed to be actually happens. That's my opinion.
No, we got to keep moving.
We've had more Democratic presidents in my lifetime than we've had Republican. And even a couple of those Republican presidents weren't all that great.
Well, I actually don't care about whether they are. I say it all the time. I want effective and efficient. If effective and efficient rears up and was Democratic, I might vote for it. I have never seen it. Never happened in my lifetime.
I have to agree with you there. I would vote for a Democrat again if they came out and told me this is why I'm best for the job and this is what I'm going to do for the American people because it's best for the American people. I haven't had that I haven't had that since I was in my 20s, where in the states that I have voted in.
Well, I would have to see, I would need a JFK. Kind of like what Dal had said earlier. People want to see a JFK, Teddy Roosevelt, Andrew Jackson. Oh, you know what? Yeah, you give me a JFK. Would I vote for another JFK, which today he would be considered a conservative, if not a far right conservative today? Same man, same politics today. He's far right, but he was a Democrat, and he was a solid Democrat in his time.
Well, Tulsi's got some stuff to prove if she gets her confirmation. I wouldn't have voted for Tulsi before because there's things I just didn't agree with her about.
She's a Democrat. I wouldn't vote for her. And so is RFK Jr. He's a Democrat. I publicly, when he was running as
Tulsi is a Republican now.
well, I know that she's switched parties. That doesn't change her
No,
mentality.
well, like I said, she would be somebody if she can show me that some of those ideologies that she had, that yes, she no longer has those, that she's more for the people, and kind of what she's saying now. Well, prove it to me. Then maybe down the line you run, yeah, I'll think about voting for you. Not just because you turned Republican. She could have remained an independent.
Well, she can't win as an independent. Nobody does. And RFK, he's listed as an independent. He's not. He's a Democrat.
Right.
The fact that he's working with Trump doesn't change. He's a Democrat. His policies, his world
around the oil.
exactly. His policies, his worldview, his ideology is from the left. Does that make him a bad person? No. Does that mean he can't run HHS? Yes, of course he can. And he's already trying to make people healthy. He's already telling us where he wants to go with that. I have no problem supporting him. Why? He's effective and efficient at the job he's got. I don't want him in a job higher than that. I don't want him in a job where his leftist policies would hurt the nation. But where he is right now, that's perfect for him. Make America healthy. I got no problem. I would support him absolutely as HHS secretary, which is Health and Human Services. And he's going to make the FDA, he's going to make the food companies have natural food for America. And that helps us to be healthier people. I got no problem supporting that. I don't care that he's a Democrat or an independent in his heart. I care about he's being effective and efficient, and it's beneficial to America. And I think more people need to look at it from that point of view.
Yep, I agree. All right, well, we're almost on 2.5 hours. We pretty much covered everything except the one thing, because Mike wasn't here tonight, and we can put that on next week.
Not a problem. Just want to make sure we covered it all, and I'm sure I'm gonna
cover even more on Sunday.
yeah. There's more to it, and I'm actually talking. Believe it or not, I have a couple of friends who are. I actually know people in every political party. Not a lot in some of the parties, but I know people in every party, and I have a couple of people who are on the left who I'm actually talking to about what they're hearing about some of the things we were talking about tonight. And I'm trying to get that. This is what I do, folks. It's not just read, it's also research. And I'm trying to get some answers about how real is this. So it could be interesting.
I look forward to seeing what you come out with.
Yeah. Now, folks, for anyone who's been watching us, and we always appreciate that you watch the Liberty First Foundation, you watch the weekly roundtable, and I hope that if you've heard something that was informative, if it was educational, if it was entertaining, whatever it may be for you, if you found us to be worth 5 minutes of your time or more, give us a like, give us a share. More importantly, give us a subscribe so that we can continue to do this week after week. It is hard out there. There's a lot of competition, and more importantly, there's a lot of suppression. If YouTube doesn't know that you want to hear this, they will make sure no one ever gets to hear it. So give us that chance. Give us the chance to have free speech, to reach people and say, this is what we're saying. And also to talk about the government, to talk about our Constitution, to talk about what America really is about, and not what it should be broken up into, or how we divide and tear each other apart. That's not America. That's not what the Constitution says. That's not what it's about. So every week, you will see us here every Wednesday, 7 p.m., to talk about the issues that are happening, that are affecting us all. As long as you continue to come back and watch it, as long as you come over and you subscribe, it costs you nothing. And that's Yeah, and we appreciate having you here. And we want to thank everybody who's been leaving comments and making statements, like Joanna, like Dal, like Jess. And I know there are dozens of others who are watching this right now on various platforms, and you just didn't leave a comment. Well, guess what? We appreciate you watching too. Jen, on anything you got?
Just again, make sure you like, subscribe, share. It does help break that algorithm. We are not monetized on this station. The guys run this out of their own pocket. Frank and Michael Marshall, more so. You can also go to l1f.us and become a member. It's only $15 a year. That helps the guys with some cost. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And don't forget to watch No Sound Bites Allowed Sundays at 2:30. YouTube. Mike goes for about 3, 4, 5 hours sometimes, but it might be long,
7.
but the man knows his stuff.
7 in the last couple of shows after the election, 7 hours apiece. Yeah, I go long. I get into it. What can I say? With that said, folks, I thank you. I look forward to seeing you. I know we all on this channel, we all look forward to seeing you and your comments next week. Thank you, everyone.